And welcome to the Horizon Roundtable. As you can tell, I'm not Bob McDonald, and the other guy, it's not Jimmy Lemke. We've got Carrick Jones with us. Say hey, Carrick.
How's it going, folks?
Got the Horizon Roundtable getting ready for semifinals here at going to be at Little Caesars Arena. I'm Matt Dudek. You can follow me at GrizzTalkOU.
And Carrick Jones, and you can follow me at Carrick_Jones.
So we're going to be taking over here since our teams actually made the Horizon tournament, unlike Cleveland State and Milwaukee. Bye, guys. You'll get Bob and Jimmy back probably for after the tournament. They'll recap some stuff and get you going into, I'm sure, some more whining about where the tournament was held and whatever else. But Carrick and I, our goal is to kind of get you guys ready for the semifinal, which by the time you listen to it will probably be today, Monday. From there, we're gonna recap a little bit of what you saw and a little bit what to expect. Carrick, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start going backwards with the first day of the quarterfinals. Cleveland State and Milwaukee were already eliminated, like we said. And so we had two games the first day. We had Green Bay and UIC, and we had Wright State and IUPUI. Let's start with Wright State IUPUI because that was the 1-8 matchup. So let's see here. Wright State pretty much destroyed IUPUI. Did you get a chance to follow some of that, Carrick?
Yeah, I really like Wright State. I like everything they got. I like the fact that they have multiple big guys. You know, they got a guy that's a true three. They shoot threes really well. It's funny because I don't really think this Wright State team's changed that much since Billy Donlin left. It seems like they got Scott Nagy using the same formula, and it's working. But their bigs are going to be crucial down the stretch because they can match up with anybody because they have three or four big guys. You know, they have Love, and then they got the is he Swedish? What is he? I don't know what he is. The big Finnish guy or whatever. Esther Houston. I can't even say his name right. I feel horrible. But you know, they got all that size, and IUPUI was very pedestrian all year. They beat U of D though. Don't even get me started. So it made sense that they got blown up. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if Wright State can shut down Cohen. I don't think they have the best guard play out of all the teams left. But I really think they got a shot going forward because they plowed through IUPUI, and I think Green Bay is going to have trouble with how big they are.
I thought that the keys for Wright State over IUPUI, Wampler had another great game. I think he had 20-some points. I think he led them in scoring, if I remember. And then Loudon Love was right behind. Loudon Love is he's such a tank. I don't want to like Loudon Love, but it's hard not to at the same time. He's a big football body down there, but he's playing hoops, you know, and he got 30-some minutes in, which I thought was high for him in that game. But that just tells you, it's tournament time, and he is ready to go. But between him and Wampler, that really led the way over IUPUI. The other big thing that was big for them is they really seemed to shut down Cameron Justice in that game, which is not an easy thing. I like a lot of things about Cameron Justice, but he was 1 of 8 and only had 8 points in that game, which is not a good thing from Cameron Justice when you're in the tournament. That's your star, and you need him to go. But I mean, Wright State they hit their shots, and then they went down low to Love, and I think, and we'll talk about this coming up, the key with Wright State is you have to control the tempo because you need to move the ball and get Love tired. And IUPUI was not able to do that.
Yeah, IUPUI just doesn't have the player personnel that Wright State does. Wright State's done a really, really good job of identifying guys that are slightly oversized for their position. And they've, for the last few years, even before Nagy got there, they've always had guys that were able to be kind of stretch guys. And, you look at the guys they're going to send out to start tomorrow. Sandy Cohen's biggest thing for Green Bay is the fact that he's a 6'6" guard, and they can just counter him with Wimpler. They're both 2 of their 3 guards they normally play a lot of minutes are over 6'4". So he's not going to have the size advantage that he had over IUPUI because Justice he's not that big.
No, I think he's 6'4". Maybe I mean he's a decent sized guard, but that comes from an OU perspective where I've got undersized guards all the time. So my perspective gets a little weird. You mentioned Nagy, and I just have to say because I've been an Oakland fan for a long time, and Coach Nagy came over from North Dakota State or South Dakota State. Yeah, he came out of the Summit League. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all relative up there.
Yeah, one of the Dakotas. It was South Dakota. But I've watched him coach for years there, and I think he's a great coach. I think he gets a lot out of very little sometimes. And I think that's what you have to do at the mid-major level. You've got to really find those pieces that you can turn into something else. And I think he's been great at it, and I think he's doing it right there at Wright State.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they can do, because I think if they win tomorrow, I think regardless of if they play Oakland or NKU, they got a really good shot.
It's hard to count them out. I mean, they just did it last year, and I don't think they really lost anything.
Yeah, I mean, how many times he's been to the tournament? What, twice in the last 4 years? So he's doing something right.
And I mean, he's clearly a good recruiter. I mean, this gets into the big picture, but I mean, he brought Mike Daum in, right? Because we said he was at South Dakota. So I mean, that was another.
North Dakota.
Is that North Dakota? That would make more sense. There was someone at South Dakota. I don't remember. Whichever school he was at, Nagy's been successful, and he's continuing to roll it through it at Wright State. Let's leave it at that, I guess, because I'm not sure. I can't keep my Dakotas straight.
Not many people can. It's okay.
They're all the same, right?
Pretty much.
Did you watch that South Dakota State game last night?
I didn't. I'm a bad college basketball fan. I watched a little bit of Duke, North Carolina, and then I watched the entirety of the Michigan State game, which I think they're both going to be really good. I think Michigan is just too dependent on shooting threes. All they do is shoot threes. But, I saw that the top team lost, right?
Yeah, so South Dakota State was the 1 seed, and they lost to the 8 seed, which was Western Illinois. They'd blown out Western Illinois twice that year, but it's kind of relative to us because everybody, I don't want to get into tournament location things, but that game was in South Dakota, and it was not on their home campus, but they had a South Dakota crowd in South Dakota. Didn't matter. The 8 seed pulled the upset last night. It was the first 8-1 upset in Summit League history.
Interesting. And you were right. He did get recruited by Nagy to South Dakota State.
I was right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, he got, I think it was Nagy. It should be. Nagy's only been at Wright State this is the 3rd year.
Okay.
He redshirted his freshman year. He is from Kimball, Nebraska.
Guess all I'm saying is Nagy's doing pretty all right. It's tough to count him out in any game. But in that quarterfinal, they took care of business against IUPUI. I will also say that Wright State had the best home attendance of any of the 4 quarterfinals. There, I think it was right around 5,000 fans were filled the Nutter Center for that game, which was again the highest of the 4 attendance.
It holds more than 5,000 fans?
Yes, 8 or 9, I think.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, still only half full, but again, 5,000 was more than Oakland put up, just almost 4,000. They had, it was a little under 4,000, like I said, but they had 8 less fans, if I remember, than Northern Kentucky, was again also just under 4,000, and then Green Bay had under 2,000 fans rolling in, which surprised me. I thought Green Bay would have some more people in.
It was cold.
It's always cold. It's Green Bay.
Blame it on the cold. It was too cold. Maybe it snowed. Who knows?
All right, so that was a little bit of Wright State IUPUI. The other game that day was this Green Bay UIC game. I will say that I am not surprised Green Bay won. I did expect them to. The main reason I expected them to is I think Sandy Cohen is the most NBA-ready prospect of anybody in the Horizon League. I think Drew McDonald deserved the Player of the Year, but if we're just looking at who's going to have the best future, I do think Sandy Cohen is the most NBA-ready. Like you said, he's like that 6'6" combo guard, I guess you could say, where he can shoot, he can back it down a little bit, and he can handle the ball. And I think that's going to transfer more than what anybody else is doing as they're on their way out of the Horizon League. But yeah, Green Bay was down for a good chunk of the game. UIC's guard play was really keeping them up front for a lot of that game. But about halfway through the second half, Green Bay made their run and they finished it out.
UIC's really underachieved, like bad, like really, really bad. I mean, this class with Botwin, Odie, Ferguson, it had Dikembe Dixon in it. They're all only going to be seniors next year, and they've yet to accomplish anything. You know, their coach was supposed to be this great white hope. This big mid-major coach goes to UIC, and they've really underachieved.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can't be questioned that McLean can recruit, which actually, from what I've heard in Chicago, isn't easy. Because while Chicago's a hotbed, obviously, we all know you've got your Simeon kids. We got all these kids out of Chicago. Any of the really, really good ones, they don't want to stay in Chicago, from what I hear. So they go elsewhere. So it's probably kind of hard to recruit UIC, but he does it. He's got the talent, but man, I don't know if it's in game or what. McLean just cannot seem to get over the hump there.
I think he brings them in and then loses them. You go and look on verbal commits. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys that at one time played there and now no longer play there.
I mean,
what does that tell you?
There's something. UIC is kind of where I feel OU's been the past year or two, where they had some really great guard play, but they were lacking somebody down low that could carry the load when the shots weren't falling. In the Green Bay UIC game, Adi he wasn't there. Ferguson did his job; he had 20-something, but Adi he wasn't hitting, and I mean that's the hard thing when you rely on your guards and you rely on that shot. I think, and we'll talk about this a little more when we talk about what to expect the next couple of days. But I am a huge fan of bigs running this league, and I think that's the key to success. And I think that's kind of what happened to UIC is when you're not hot, you've got to be able to get the ball down to somebody and put the ball in the hoop. And I think UIC's time just kind of ran out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do next year because they should have so many guys coming back. But yeah, they've royally underachieved so far.
Yeah, I don't get it, but I mean, there's something going on there, and maybe he'll put it together and make us all look bad going forward. But there's something not clicking up in UIC land, and that's what ended up happening there. They got bounced by Green Bay, and that got us the 1. So that was Tuesday. So on Tuesday, the 1 and the 4 seeds moved on, which is what the Horizon League wanted all along, right? To move on your top seeds. That's what this was about. And on Tuesday and Wednesday, we're just about to get there. But on both days, that's what happened. Green Bay overcame them in the second half, and they took care of business and moved on to Detroit. And with that, let's move on to Wednesday, the day that you and I both were much more invested in these games. Let's be honest.
Yep, very much so.
All right, so let's go. We've been doing high seed first. So let's talk, and by let's, I mean, Carrick, it's all you. Talk to me about the NKU Mercy game. I'm sorry, Detroit Mercy game.
It's a really good game. U of D was up 47-40 at the half. Clicking. Coach went with his 7-man rotation he wanted so bad the whole year. He was talking after the game that it was, the best game they put together all year. The one thing he does that I don't really quite understand is he talks really negatively about his own players. Like I can understand being a hard ass, but wow. He has some pretty choice words for people that was pretty high on.
I'm glad you said that because I've seen some of his press conferences, probably more than most people. And I've seen what he says about his players. And I can't imagine my coach saying these things about me and then going to practice the next day and having to pretend like I'm invested in you because it's so obvious he didn't care about some of these guys. What was the comment after the OU game? It was something about when I get my guys in or something, which we all know he had to piece together a team this year. But man, that's when I get my guys in. Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird too because you look at who he played in that game, And Cole Long is definitely not one of his guys, like at all. And he played 38 minutes. And it was probably the best game Cole Long's had as a Titan. You know, he only had 5 points, but he was doing everything defensively, really getting active in the zone. Another guy that had a really good game back from injury, even though coach said he was out for the season. So I'm just going to assume, like in the Ray McCallum era, the injury report doesn't matter. Willie Asani looked really, really good. I think he is going to be very, very scary for the Horizon League next year because of how well he shoots threes. And I do understand he's 22 years old, and he'll be going into his 23-year-old year next year as a sophomore. But, you know, that's what you get when get your players from Georgia. No, the game looked good. They just ran out of gas in the second half. McDonald just did way too much. He did everything. He was shooting threes. He was scoring inside. And Sharp killed him from three. He was 6 for 12. They shot right over the zone. They did exactly what U of D doesn't want you to do when, you know, Sharp and McDonald combined for 9 threes because you got them in a zone and they can't score down low. That's what happens. But I'm really excited about what this team is going to look like next year, especially because he's essentially going to bring in 6 new players. And, you know, Antoine, is going to come back and, you know, hopefully average another 25 points a game. But they got to get him some help or drop some plays because I can understand that there's a lot of stuff they don't call against him. But at the same time, he's forced to create his own shots way too much. And I think that's the difference between him and a guy like a Travis Bader or, you know, a Hooper, is he is forced to create all his own threes. It's not like there's the one play that's drawn up for Antoine to hit a three off, you know, a play that there's a screen and he's coming off the screen and catching the ball. That routinely doesn't happen because they're denied the screen. So hopefully coach can get some big guys in to anchor the zone and it's able to set up those threes. Because if they do, I think they're going to be really good. I think we're coming into 2 or 3 good years for U of D basketball, hopefully. But they gotta find some bigs because this Northern Kentucky team smoked them because they have bigs. You know, Vogt played really good. I think Northern Kentucky Oakland game tomorrow at 9:30 is going to be the best of the 2 games and probably the best of the conference tournament because I don't think Oakland has the depth that Northern Kentucky does, and I think that's going to be the issue. Didn't Newman shoot like 1 of 8 from 3? Was it 2 games ago or was the last game?
I don't know. Newman had an okay game versus Youngstown. It was not. Newman's a very, very hot shooter, and he wasn't on, and that was okay. He did his job, but I know what you mean about the depth. So would you say it was the depth of NKU that ended up overcoming? Because
they just tired him out, and I don't know. You know, the other thing is, like I was telling you before, Blackshear and the other big guy we got, I can't remember his name because he doesn't ever play. Louisiana Tech transfer. What is his name? Regardless, our 2 biggest guys didn't play, and it was a coach's decision. So go ahead and think about what that might have been. And Darian King didn't play either. He was hurt. So Harrison Curry didn't play.
Okay. Because at the OU game we were following, you guys were the 2 games tipped at the same time, and your game ended up about 5 minutes ahead of the OU game. So when we hit halftime, you guys were already there, and you guys, like you said, you were up 7, and in the stands we were talking about it like, oh wow, they're up. No one expected that. Like, so my question for you, I have 2 questions for you, Carrick, and me and Carrick have known each other a while these days. We've gone through ups and downs. I think we're pretty good now, so I think you're going to be honest with me. First question doesn't require a lot of honesty. Were there any shoes thrown at the NKU game, or what was the shoe report?
There no shoes thrown. 0 shoes thrown.
No shoes thrown. And how many technical fouls did Mercy get at that game?
0.
That's a great day for them.
Yeah, they did really well.
I'm okay. I mean, props to them for keeping their shoes on and not throwing them anywhere. I mean, that's a great day. But my other question is, and it sounds like it kind of came up a little bit at the NKU game, but all season this has been a question. Do you believe that Antoine Davis gets called differently, or like you said, is he just having to create more than some of these other guys and a little bit undersized, and that's creating some of the issues that Mike Davis talks about?
I mean, as a coach that knows that refs will purposely screw you, yeah, he probably does get called differently. But I don't think the right plays are either drawn up for him or, they have the guys to set the screens. The more I watch down the stretch, the more I realize that every time they go to set a screen, the guy setting the screen's getting run over. Or, Antoine's getting run over on his way to run around the screen. I think it's a combination of both. I think even though it's a combination of both, the complaining after a while has just gotten old to a point where any point he might have had before about him not getting calls is negated by the fact that he's complaining so much. I do believe he does get called differently because the Rise League has had god-awful refs for as long as I've been following it, so 8-9 years now. And he's not bulky. He's very small. I think that's the other thing. He is a very, very small guard. He might be 6 foot tall if he is 6 foot tall.
He's not.
He's so lanky that anybody with any weight on him is going to knock him off the ball. Do I think he's probably better than Rashad Phillips right now? It's possible. I think Rashad would argue that he's better than he is. His ability to shoot threes is amazing, and I think the range is what's so scary. Josh McFarley's been somebody who's always been able to go and shoot a heat check three, but like Antoine can shoot a heat check three from way beyond NBA range, and it goes in. He's got the ability to find whatever that range is to make that shot arc, and it goes. And I think it's about building him a supporting cast because he didn't have a supporting cast this year. Half the rosters, walk-on caliber players, and his buddies that he played AAU with in Texas, like didn't have a good supporting cast. I think an X factor for them going forward is going to be Marcus Moore. He finally started hitting that corner three down the stretch. We saw 1 or 2 against OU. He had 2 or 3 against NKU. I think he's going to be good for them going forward. I think if Cole Long stays, he'll be good at stretching the zone, but they got to get, extra guys in. Like I was telling you before, it looks like they might be getting a grad transfer from Central Connecticut State, which doesn't really sound great because it's Central Connecticut State, but another 6'7" guy. It seems everybody they're recruiting from JUCOs is like 6'6", 6'7". So I guess he doesn't really want a real big to anchor the zone. He's just going to throw a bunch of 6'6", 6'7" guys out there and hope they can, athletic their way to wins. But yeah, they got to do something different because complaining isn't going to work.
Sounds like on this night, that's what overcame them, and that was kind of a big thing with a lot of their losses all season. So sounds like NKO did their job. Always chirping back and forth with the Valhalla Vanguard. It sounds like their students showed up. I always say, as much as I love to give them as much crap as I can online, I like NKU. I like a lot of what's building up there in Northern Kentucky land. So we'll talk about them some more in a minute here. Let's talk the OU YSU game just to get that recap done before we talk about what to expect the next 2 days. So OU YSU game, I'm just going to assume that you have nothing much to add. Carrick, you were mostly watching another game. Yeah, exactly. I was at the OU game, of course. OU really controlled the game from the tip. And everyone loves to say that OU can't play defense. That's always been the knock. They played defense. They really did for a good chunk of the game. I think it was about half. At one point, YSU climbed back in. They took a lead for just a moment. And then from there, OU controlled the entire rest of the game. But it was a lot of really good down-low play. And what's hard for OU is they do play a short bench. They do get tired, I think. I've been saying that all year. It was a 7-man rotation. And Beck, who's usually the backup big, I don't think he played in the second half. It was all just rotation of the 2 bigs, Brechting an X, along with just mixing in mixing in Kamari Newman essentially, just to kind of when they needed a blow to go small, which actually worked against YSU pretty well. But Youngstown fouled a lot, and that wasn't Horizon League refs or anything. Fouls were 30-13. And being at the game, I'm surprised it wasn't higher than that. At one point, YSU put in John Sally Jr., which up here in Detroit, we all know John Sally. I don't think that kid had played all season. I don't watch a lot of YSU, but he was clearly just in there. All he did was foul. I don't even think he picked up a board, but he picked up 3 fouls or 2 or 3 fouls. Like, they just fouled OU a lot, and OU was not great from the free throw line, but they were good enough in that game. The guards really carried it for a while. Brad Brechting has been great the second half of the season, but he needs to see that first shot go in on his first touch, and it didn't. And it took him through a good chunk of the game to battle through. What was nice, though, is by the end of the game, all the OU starters were in double figures. Always love seeing it kind of distribute around. Nobody carried the team. Everybody worked together. X Factor was definitely Trey Maddox Jr., and I like him a lot, especially as a freshman. He's not talked about in the freshman mix. He didn't make the all-freshman team, which was a joke, but I'm not surprised because his numbers don't show it. But not only does he guard the other team's best player a lot, he is OU's best bet to create and get to the rim. And that's something that they've got the inside game that we know about with the 2 bigs. You've got Cumberland and Norris. If you leave them out alone, they'll hit those threes. But Maddox can not only shoot the 3, but he can get to the rim, and he did that a few times in that game. That was a big factor. Sometimes he gets a little bit ahead of himself and makes freshman mistakes, and Campy goes campy on him. But overall, he really did his job, and OU did their job. They needed to just get over the hump and get not only a YSU win, who they split with during the season, and we've had issues with them in the tournament and all these other things. But they defended. They wanted the home court. They got home court. They won. The arena was absolutely rocking. Shout out to the Grizz gang, as they do every game. They were there. They were loud. Man, the Grizz gang was loud. It was great. Quisenberry was pretty shut down. YSU was just frustrated most of the game. Calhoun, I guess, did his job after the game, and him and his 2 players went into the post-game press conference, and nobody had questions for the players, so they left almost right away. Calhoun took one question and stormed off. He was just a frustrated guy, and I wish he had done a longer press. I wish I'd seen it, because I'm curious what his frustrations were. Was it with the team, with the officiating? I don't know, but overall, Oakland played a better all-around game, and they did what they were supposed to do, and they beat YSU. But that was still, for Oakland, a nice thing to see. And you probably don't have much to add to that, do you?
No. I watched about the last 2 minutes when it didn't overlap. It was over. So
all you saw was free throws at that point.
Yep, pretty much.
It was that was a lot of the game. Like I said, you guys finished your game ahead of us because our game was slower, and it wasn't. There was like only 1 or 2 official reviews at the monitor, nothing like that. It was just a lot of free throws, and luckily OU hit enough. Again, they're actually a very, very good free throw shooting team, and they didn't display it against YSU as much as I think we're used to seeing. But overall, they did what they had to do to move on. Anything else on any of those games before we talk about what's coming up?
No, let's get to tomorrow.
Let's get to the good part. That's what everyone's really here for. Let's talk about tomorrow, on Monday, the semifinals day. We've had quite a layoff, probably due to ESPN. They're the mothership. They're running when everybody's championship games are, so it's been planned around that. So we've had this layoff, but it's time. The top 4 seeds are there, just like the Horizon League wanted. It's playing out exactly what they wanted. So we've got. You want to do the 1-4 or the 2-3? Which one?
Let's start with the 1-4.
1-4. So we've got OU. Oh no, the 1-4. My bad. Let's try that again. We've got Green Bay and Wright State. What you got for me?
I think Wright State beats them inside. I think Wright State is bigger, and I don't think Sandy Cohen is going to be able to be nearly as effective as he was against the inferior team he played the other night. So I got to go with Wright State, and I think probably by almost 20 points, 15 or 20.
Ooh, no way. I'm willing to let you have Wright State, but I do not see that being by 15, 20. Especially Green Bay won. They split the season, and Green Bay won the most recent meeting, which I find interesting.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, they split, and Green Bay won. I believe that one was in Green Bay, I think. Cohen was a non-factor when they lost, though. Wright State won by 4, and Cohen was shut down that game. Love and Wampler did their thing, but in Green Bay, Cohen showed up and he got 24 in that game. So he can definitely score against Wright State. He's proven it, and that was the difference in the win for sure. And like I said, that just happened. It was the second to last game of the season for them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I like Wright State size. I think if Wimpler gets the assignment on Cohen, I think he can slow him down. I don't know if Wright State wants to do that because I don't think they want a 3 going up against a 2. But I just think they're too big. I think as much as I would like to see Oakland against Wright State, I think we're on a Wright State NKU collision course.
Okay.
But that's I think Love is just too big. He's too dominant. He's too big. Nobody has anybody that can keep up with him. I think Hill Mays is probably the only guy and Brechting are the only 2 guys really that are going to be big enough to keep him in check. So I think Wright State wins the first one tomorrow, and I think it's going to be easy. But you never know. Green Bay made a run at the first Motor City Madness, so maybe they'll make a run at the last one.
I think for Green Bay to win tomorrow, they're going to have to control tempo. I think we talked about this for just a second earlier. They're going to have to push a lot. And I don't know Green Bay well enough to know if that's something they want to do or they've had success. I don't know if that's what they did in the last meeting. I don't remember watching it, but I have to imagine that's what I would be planning to do against Wright State. Is you got to keep moving. You got to keep Love going back and forth, and wear him down because I think as Love goes, Wright State goes.
I agree. I think he's the X factor for that game.
I mean, Wampler's going to hit. What's it? Vest. I think he's the other one. They're all going to do that. One X factor for me, and maybe this is just the Oakland fan in me, is Pipes for Green Bay. I don't know why that guy just always seems to get us at OU. So I'm just expecting something from him tomorrow. I could see him coming off the bench for Green Bay and getting some when no one's really expecting him to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Both of them had really good runs at the first Motor City Madness, and my gut tells me that all 4 teams are going to be ready to go, and it's going to be fun. I was happy that I was able to go to the first one, and now I'm able to go to the last one. Unfortunately, U of D's not playing, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun in the new arena, and I'm really hoping Oakland makes a run just to say that one of the 2 teams did it once in the 4 years.
I'm sure Olympia is thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine that there's going to be very many people for the first game tomorrow.
I hope there is. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this again. I don't want to talk about location. That they've beat this horse to death over and over the last few weeks, but there's less and less excuses to not be here. If you're a fan and you're listening to this, it's Monday at some point, and you're not on your way into Detroit, shame on you. You've had plenty of time to plan for it, to take off work. This isn't a surprise. It wasn't a one-day turnaround. We've known since Wednesday. That's like 4 or 5 days to get here and support your team, if nothing else. I don't even care about supporting the tournament or the conference. Support your team.
At one of the premier venues in the United States.
Yeah. Look at that. We did something right here in Michigan. Believe it or not, I have to admit, I actually haven't been in Little Caesars yet.
Oh, no, that's kind of funny.
I just haven't made it there for anything yet.
It's not like we have teams playing meaningful games there anytime. So,
I mean,
the Red Wings are horrible and the Pistons are horrible. So,
Pistons are making that run. I don't know why, but they are. Doing thing. Shout out, by the way, because I know he listens to this sometimes and he's got a lot going on right now. Shout out to Neil Rule, voice of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, who got called in for emergency radio duty today and called the game for the Chicago Bulls. Not even for Detroit, for Chicago on no prep. Which good on you. Way to go, Neil.
That sounds fun. Sounds like a fun time.
So, anyway.
So none of the game that you care more about. So are you going to be able to get there in time for the game tomorrow? What's going on with that?
I'll be there for both games tomorrow.
Opened up the schedule.
Oh, yeah. I had to. Got to represent the Horizon podcast.
I'm Horizon Roundtable. So you'll probably beat me there. It's going to be a fun day. I'm really looking forward to that 9:30 game. I'm hoping a lot of Oakland fans show up. And I'm hoping Oakland doesn't choke.
Me too. I can tell you that Oakland's 50 allotted students went very quickly. And then they sold more student tickets past the 50, like to sit somewhere else, and they filled at least one bus. I know that. So I imagine it will be a very OU crowd. I am always disappointed in the NKU student section. Valhalla Vanguard works their butt off. Again, love to give those guys crap online, but I think they do a great job of trying to promote their section and get students there. But I mean, they are on their spring break, and even the Valhalla Vanguard said they're not coming. Like, okay.
You know, that kind of makes me upset because I never went on spring break so I could cover the Horizon League tournament. For 5 years, I did not go on spring break so I could cover the Horizon League tournament. So shame on them.
Maybe they'll change their mind.
2 spring breaks in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Oof.
Yeah, do you know how much fun it is to drink in a hotel room in Valparaiso, Indiana?
I'm surprised you were able to get booze in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Well, we brought it with us because we were concerned it might be a blue county. So, or a dry county, rather. So we brought it with us. You know, the NKU fans kind of remind me of Valpo fans.
Funny you mention that. I agree.
They're mildly annoying.
But passionate.
They have a holier-than-thou-esque to them. And I'm fairly sure they're afraid of black folks. So,
God,
I'm really upset about the whole shoe thing. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's cute. It's funny. It benefits charity. It sat with me the wrong way. The shoe drive is about 2 ticks away from doing something real inappropriate.
I liked it, but again, I at the end of the day, I like Northern Kentucky more than I hate Mercy. So.
So let's get to this one. Do you think your bigs can slow down Drew McDonald? Because I don't think either one of them are fast enough to chase him out to the 3-point line.
So here's my thoughts on this. And I of course, have lots of thoughts on this. Yes, I do. NKU and OU split the series this year. Both teams won at home. When OU won at home, McDonald was healthy. So they can't say that. I know he's had some back spasm issues or back issues the past.
And he's not healthy right now.
I think everybody's healthy, but I'm saying McDonald hasn't been healthy the past couple of games.
No, he's not healthy right now. They were trying to limit its minutes against U of D.
Oh, okay. I thought he was back in pretty much full bore.
I mean, their fans and their media and the team probably try to tell you he's healthy, but if you're pulling a guy out on purpose and your TV announcers are saying that they're pulling him out to conserve his energy, I gotta think he's not fully healthy. That was part of the reason why U of D was able to go on the run that got him up. Was because he was nowhere to be found for a lot of the first half. They were resting him. So that's something that'll be interesting to watch.
Ooh, so the drama unfolds. Well, when he was healthy at Oakland, OU was able to limit him. He did not have a good game. He did not look like the player of the year at Oakland at all. And the key there for OU was they put Brechting on him, even though McDonald and Hill Mays are probably real close in size. I think Xavier's probably a little stronger, a little bit bigger. At the time, X was the guy for OU that was doing most of the heavy lifting on the offensive end. So they put Brad on Drew defensively so that X wasn't dealing with him. And that allowed X to save a little bit of energy for the offensive side. And OU had a lot of success with Brad on Drew, just a little bit more size. Brad's got a motor that can keep up with Drew. I think the issue now is it sounds like Vogt. I don't know how he says his name. The other NKU big guy. It sounds like he's starting to put it together. And if they double McDonald or even put X on him, he might get his, and that might, I don't know if that's what the poison they're going to pick.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm also really excited for the guard play. I'm thinking, I don't know if you tweeted it or one of the other Oakland people tweeted it. Braden Norris might be the better part of the pair between him and Foster Loyer from their AAU team.
I have definitely tweeted that, but I want to put it out there just in case the Loyer family is listening for some reason, or anybody connected to him in Clarkston and their AAU team. I see these Michigan State fans just constantly down on Foster Loyer. And if Foster Loyer doesn't want to deal with that, I would take him at OU and pair him back up with Norris in a heartbeat. So Foster Loyer, if you're listening for some reason, just know that there's a spot for you at OU. I'm sure we can make that happen. If you don't want to deal with these Michigan State fans, and well, you just won a Big Ten title, so you're probably just fine. But anyway, Braden Norris, man, has he been so good unexpectedly.
Yeah, he's got range, man. I mean, he can really knock down the threes. I was really impressed when I went and watched the Oakland U of D game and seeing him in person. I mean, he seems like he's going to be the real deal.
Not only that, I mean, he understands the game, and his ball handling is good. His decision making is good. Another coach's son, those things always are important. But he will go. He doesn't turn the ball over much, which for a freshman point guard playing 38, 40 minutes a game, that's saying something. And he was pressed into this. When Kay Felder, or even going further back in Oakland history, Jonathan Jones came in, they were thrown the keys to the car and allowed to make mistakes. But they came in knowing that was going to be the thing. I'm pretty sure it was Kay, where Campy didn't recruit a point guard, knowing that Kay was coming the year after, and he wanted Kay to just be the guy. Norris wasn't here to be the guy. Norris was supposed to learn this year. That was the only returning starter from last year's team was Neely. And then when he left, beginning of the season, it became Norris's car, and he's just driving, man.
Yeah, what happened to Neely?
Some say he was hurt, but everything else I've heard is he was butthurt because he got himself suspended for a game, and Norris played the hell out of that game, and it became obvious that Neely was going to be a backup, and he wasn't interested.
Hey, interesting.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wish we had a backup point guard sometimes, but I can't complain about the work of Norris. And he could totally implode tomorrow, and you still would have to go, man, great year, freshman. Thank you.
Well, that's the interesting thing about this Oakland team is, sure, it's at home, and I'm sure they'd like to win at home. And frankly, I want them to win at home. I think it looks really bad on Oakland and U of D if one time in 4 years neither one wins, especially with Kay Felder having been there for 3 years. And I know, U of D's last year there with McCallum, they're supposed to be a lot better than they ended up being. But yeah, I hope they win. I'm rooting for them. I'm not sure if that's because I dislike NKU or if I want the Michigan team to win. Frankly, I'm not really sure. But, I want them to win. I think they got a good little core. I think they can only get better. I'm not so sure they can get that much better. I think that they're limited. I don't think either one of their bigs is getting that much better. I think they pretty much can do what they can do. But I think the sky's the limit for their backcourt. I think Norris could be really good, and Maddox is, I think, going to be really good. You got to remember, he was like a pretty decently recruited D1 football player.
He had an offer from Syracuse. Offer for as a wide receiver at Syracuse.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and also don't forget one thing that we've seen a little bit from him is he hit 2 game-winning shots in high school back-to-back to get his Novi team to the state championship. That is a kid that isn't afraid of the limelight a little bit. And like I said, Campy trusts him a lot, and sometimes he gets a little bit out of control, and then Campy will get after him. But you can tell that he knows what he's got in Trey Maddox Jr. That's a kid that's going to play, and he's going to be here. And again, for all the Oakland people that may or may not be listening, he reminds me of Derek Nelson, and Derek Nelson was an amazing Golden Grizzly for us.
I think he's going to be really good.
What else? Tomorrow. So I think the bigs will somewhat cancel each other out, and it's going to be about who's hot. Sharp always seems to have good games against us, and let's not forget about is it Jalen Tate over at NKU. He's a great player. I think he's going to try to draw the defensive assignment. I just don't know who that is. Like, if he's your shutdown guy, but we're primarily looking down low to start, I'm guessing he's going to be on Cumberland. And I mean, personally, I'm willing to let Tate cancel out Cumberland if it gets everybody else going. That's fine by me.
Well, they say Trayvon Faulkner is their shutdown guy, so I don't really know what to tell you. I think either way, OU's going to have a guard open, and whoever that is, they better get hot. Whether that's Neely, whether it's Cumberland, whether that's Newman coming off the bench. I think Newman's the X factor. I think if Newman's hot, it's over.
I watched Kamari Newman before the game against Youngstown. He's one of those guys that, and I thought he was feeling it because of this. He hit 2 half-court shots that wasn't just shooting half-court shots for fun. They were, let's see how high I can throw this up in the air. Just bring the rain. And he hit 2 back-to-back from half-court before the Youngstown game. And I thought, man, that kid is feeling it right now. So he is definitely an X factor. You predicted that the Green Bay Wright State game would be a blowout. What's your prediction on this OU NKU game?
I think it goes into OT, and I think Oakland wins. I think Oakland has something to prove. I think Greg Kampe definitely has something to prove, and I think Greg Kampe's something to prove it is worth a lot. And I think they're just as athletic as NKU, and I didn't think NKU looked great until they really had to turn the gas on against UDM. I felt like UDM had some really inferior players out there against them. Not saying anything against those guys. I think, UDM's got kind of like a ragtag roster. And I felt like they let some of the ragtag guys for UDM really have good games against them. Like I mentioned, Long only had 5 points, but he looked really like a D1 basketball player, which isn't something he's done, in his 3 years. And I'm not saying anything against him. I think he's a good kid, but he's, a fringe talent at best. I think Oakland's just more athletic. I think NKU's bigger and more lengthy, but I got to go with Oakland's guard play. I think having, your 2 starters can nail threes, having Newman off the bench that can nail threes, and then the 2 big guys inside are going to really create problems for NKU, and I think Oakland goes to the final.
And I'm going to say I think the first 38 minutes of this game essentially doesn't matter. It's going to come down to those last 2 minutes. It's going to be a 1-possession game, and I think one of those 2 teams is going to have that final shot to take the lead with the buzzer going off. But I think NKU is going to hold on. And as an Oakland fan, I hate to say it. I do. I want to be wrong. I so want to be wrong. But in the sake of trying to make the right prediction, I think this becomes an NKU Wright State 1-2 game on Tuesday on ESPN.
Well, we'll see. I don't think Olympia Entertainment wants that.
No.
I think it's fun. I think it's fun. We're going down there tomorrow for the last installment. I'm pretty sure it was the first installment. I gave you a gaggle of free tickets because they couldn't give these things away. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the last inclination of it. It's unfortunate U of D couldn't do anything for the 4 years. I know Reggie would have really loved the tournament being here for 4 years and getting to show off Detroit to everybody. And I'm excited to do it one last time. I hope it comes back around and ends up in Detroit again. Who knows what the plan is? It'll probably never leave Indianapolis again. And, I got to be honest, I really don't ever want to take a vacation in Indianapolis, Indiana. But we'll see. I know they just beat the dead horse with how much they hate the tournaments in Detroit on the podcast. So,
well, I'm sure we could talk about that in the next couple weeks after this tournament. But first, we got to get through the Horizon League tournament. With that, we're going to be finishing up here. Make sure you check out the Horizon, not only for this podcast, but the next couple of days. Me and Carrick will be downtown trying to get some extra stuff going for the Horizon Roundtable. Trying to get some. We'll be in the interview room and just trying to get some more information and try to get a couple extra things up over the week. So next 2 days. Last thoughts, Carrick? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. I'm hoping Oakland makes a run so Chris Ilitch doesn't go broke.
I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, well, we'll have to go buy a $15 pizza while we're there. Help support the cause.
All right, everybody. You guys take care. Buckle up. We're going Horizon League tournament time. Talk to everybody soon.